Hello students, myself Deepak Derle, Computer Science Department, KTHM College, Nasik. From previous week, we are discussing cybersecurity with Module 1. In today's session, I will cover the topic overview of threat modeling process as well as weak and strong password. In previous session, we already discussed the term as information security overview with background and current scenarios. Also, we discuss various types of attacks like phishing, spoofing, etc. The agenda for today's session is overview of security threats, threat modeling process, its steps, and the weak and strong password mechanism. So let's start with basics of threat and vulnerability. Basically, when we have to think about security of the computer, security of confidential data, then these two are the most important terms we have to consider with the security, in which first is threat. A threat is nothing but a possible danger that might exploit, or a vulnerability is a breach security and the cause possible harm. Basically, we can consider the vulnerability as a weakness in which attacker can reduce system's information assurance. Basically, it consists of three different elements, in which first is system susceptibility, also known as flaw or bug. Then second is attacker access to the flaw, and the third one is attacker capability to exploit the flaw. So these three terms involves in vulnerability. We can categorize these threats into various groups, as first is spoofing identity. In case of spoofing identity, it may happen that someone can use your credentials for the purpose of fraud in that organization or fraud with the data. Means suppose there is one person and that person will use another person credentials like his ID password, and then he can misuse the data, he can break the data, and that is nothing but spoofing identity. Here the second category is tampering with the data. Means the data whatever available, or the sensitive data available at that moment, that data can be modified, that integrity of the data can be lost with the help of some techniques by attacker. So attacker will temper the data, means disturb that data, and the data may lead into uh, dirty data, or we can start tampering with the data. So data tampering involves malicious modification of data, and then one example has been given as it includes unauthorized changes made to persistent data. Here persistent data means permanent data which lies in the system. It may available on the hard disk, it may available with the pen drive, it may available on external storage also like magnetic tape also. So the alteration of the data which is flows in between the two computers, either with the same network or either in the different network, considering for tampering with the data. Now the third category, reputation. Now in case of reputation, we have to track and lock users actions. Sometimes we have to permit authorize users, but suppose those access can be taken by the attacker by using some techniques, and then these terms occurs reputation. If this attack takes place, then the data stored on log files can be considered invalid or misleading, because that data can be modified by the attacker. Then next is information disclosure. It simply means that information leakage, means some attacker or intruder can capture the confidential data for the purpose of misusing. It may happen that these attacks may occur intentionally or unintentionally also. But with this attack, the sensitive information or confidential information, which is very useful for industry, that information can be get modified, or that information can be lost due to some procedures followed by the attacker or intruder. Then last is denial of service. Basically, It happens whenever authenticated user or unauthenticated user do not have access for that data. Means sometimes we have to prevent access from the user also. I will give one simple example here. If we think about banking system, then when you physically visit to the bank, entered into the bank, at that moment that bank employee, okay, no doubt that employee is authorized user for the bank, still that person having access either for example either from 11 a.m to 3 p.m or 11 a.m to 4 p.m only, because no doubt that person is authorized user, that person is authorized admin, but still that person having some time slot, and only within that time slot that person can access the data. In case of denial of service, the attacks deny service to the valid users. And again, one example given: by making a web server temporarily unavailable or unusable. Here you must protect against certain types of DOS against stands for denial of service threats, simply to improve system availability and reliability. We know reliability from previous sessions as assurity or assurance of the message from sender to receiver, either from one user to another user or either from system to the respected user also. Now the second part of today's session as threat modeling process. Basically, it consists of six different steps, in which step one is identify assets, then second one is create an architecture overview, then third is decompose the application, fourth one identify the threats, then fifth one document the threats, and the sixth one rate the threats. If you observe carefully, then it is just like some flow chart. Means that threat will switches, that thread will move from one step to other step in a proper particular way. So start with first one, identify the assets. Here we have to identify the valuable assets that our system must protect. For example, confidential data such as customer database is one of the good example for asset. So in your system, first of all, identify the confidential data, means the data which you have to protect from the unauthorized users. Okay, so you can simply categorize it into confidential, non-confidential data, or you may make various categories, and you can take that confidential data at one place, so that to secure the data becomes easy for the admin. Then the second part of this modeling process, that is create an architecture overview. In architecture overview, you have to simply use diagrams, then tables or document to make that application properly. At that moment, you have to define the trust boundaries, as well as you have to decide the data flow in between the various steps of that application. Now third one, decompose the application. Here, for the purpose of better understanding, you have to make some designing. One example, as you may create number of profiles for the user, so that each user will put his confidential data on his profile itself. Again, to secure those profile, that user may use his own ID and password, and he can easily access the data whatever he want at that moment. Then the next step of this threat modeling process, or threat identify the threats. So here this is most essential step, because in this step you have to identify the threats in your application, keeping the goals of an attacker in mind, and with knowledge of the architecture and potential vulnerabilities of your application, identify the threats that could affect the application. And if you are able to identify the threats, then you can follow the, or you can decide the step with the help of which you can protect your data from the hacker or attacker, or we can say that intruder at that moment with your respective application. Now next step of the threat modeling process, document the threats. Again, in this step, you have to document each thread using a common thread template that defines a core set of attributes to capture for each thread. Then last step of this modeling process, or rate the threads. Here you can prioritize the threads, means which threads having high priority, which threads having lowest priority, and as per that you can handle the thread, you can service the threads, and it will be helpful for user as well as it will be useful for other people also. Now let's move to the last part of today's session as password and password cracking. Basically, password is having two different parts. In that, one is strong password and other is weak password. In general, we always prefer strong passwords. If we compare a security, then security by considering weak and strong password, then strong password is one of the good technique to use with or to handle with the applications. But what do you mean by strong password and weak password? So here I have listed a few steps or few points on that topic. In current slide, you can see here strong password hints are given, and in next slide I will explain the weak password. But just remember, you must use strong password for your applications each and every time. It could be any application, either your Gmail account, your Facebook account, or other account also, any social media or any your business account also. You have to use the strong passwords. And again, along with that, remember one thing: don't share your password with another persons. Okay, no doubt that another person may be in your trust also, that is trusted person. Still, if that application contains sensitive information, very confidential information, then don't share your password with other people. Okay, and again, along with that, remember one thing: you have to change your password periodically. Means sometimes we set our password at the time of account opening, at the time of using that application, but after that, for many years we are using same password. So just change that thing. You have to reset your password periodically, either within 1 month, either within few months, or either within some days also. Again, depend on the confidential data available with your application. So which are the steps we have to follow while setting our strong password? So we will see one by one. It contains both uppercase and lowercase characters. Okay. Now in our alphabets, we have capital A to capital Z, small a to small z alphabets are available. So must use both combination. Means it may happen that sometimes that password name can be start with capital alphabet, and after that it may contain small alphabets also, but it must be a combination of uppercase and lowercase alphabets. Then second, it includes digits and punctuation characters as well as letters. Again, few examples are given in that bracket, so you can use those special characters. You may use those punctuation characters in your password by making it as a strong. Then your password must contain at least 8 characters. It may be more than that, but at least 8 characters must be present in your password. Then last is, it is not based on personal information, names of family, or etc. Now it may happen that our application contains a mobile number as a password, our application contains name as a password, or some vehicle number, or some famous number, particular number. So just skip it and use difficult password for your applications, so that your application or your data will be secure for long term. Now the hints for weak password, don't follow it, but just for your information I have listed here. Now weak password may contain less than 8 characters. Then it can be a dictionary word, either English or foreign dictionary. Then it is a common usage words such as name of family members, then pet names, then hardwares, then software, then your popular team. Suppose someone can set some team name as a password, so it is not good for your application. Then your birth dates or personal information such as address, phone number, like mobile number or a telephone number, then license plates, don't use it for your password. Then word or number patterns again listed as triple A, triple B, so don't go with these types of password. Any of the above spell backwards, and any of the above preceded or followed by a digit. Again, one example given in bracket, you can read it in that slide. Okay, so in today's session, we have discussed overview of threat modeling process by 6 different steps, and the mechanism or the hint for weak and strong passwords. In next session, we will discuss insecure network connections and the malicious code. Thank you.